Hello everybody, it's George from Ireland. So here I am in Liverpool. The RMT strike is going on here. So Railway, Maritime and Transport Workers. You can see RMT at the bottom. There's Bob Crow, who died in 2014 of a heart attack, RMT leader. If you fight, you might lose, but if you don't fight, you will always lose. And a quotation from Thomas Mann, a renowned Liverpool socialist, saying, all the transport workers of Liverpool, arm in arm against the enemy class. Brothers, we rise to this challenge and meet it head on. A step wrong and the Mersey will rise afoot by nightfall with largely innocent blood. Well, that was complete twaddle. They weren't going to get killed, then any of them were. And then we will be free. The Tolpuddle Martyrs, 1833. Those farm labourers in southwest England, Devon or was it Dorset, who they swore people into a trades union, and that was illegal, administering illegal oaths, and they were given a fate worse than death, transportation to Australia. There was a huge outcry, and they were granted a royal pardon, and they were repatriated and set at liberty. So that's the Tolpuddle Martyrs. Tolpuddle is the village they came from. Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers Union, RMT, and then you can see the symbols. Look, this is a symbol. This is the symbol of the railways. The anchor for, as in sailors and so forth, pulled together, all grades united in one common object, for those in peril on the sea, as in from the hymn. Okay, so they're playing the Kings of Leon, this Texas on Fire. So I'm outside Lime Street, there's a railway station in Liverpool. This is the main railway station in Liverpool. Liverpool in the 10th biggest city in the United Kingdom. And you can see these people in the fluorescent gilet, RMT members. But you know, not all transport workers are members of the RMT, and so not everybody agrees with the strike. There's a strike ballot. They had to give 14 days notice, they have, but there were strikes through last year, November and December, obviously not every day. There are rolling strikes, we strikes on some railway lines, on other railway lines. The buses and the trains have not gone on strike at the same time. So, but because of the strikes, some people drive who wouldn't usually drive, more traffic on the roads. Sometimes they've played on extra buses, but nevertheless it has caused significant disruption. Between now and Easter, there have been many 75 days of strikes on the railways. But as I said, not every railway line will be on strike each of those days, but it'll impact somewhere. Let me see, so we go into the station. It's one of the busiest times of day. Some people are still working, and some railway workers, are not members of the union. They don't have to be members of the union. They mostly choose to, but by quite a high margin they voted for this strike. They're wanting higher wages. So we come in here, 10:30 in the morning would be a fairly busy time, and as you can see, it's largely empty. But there are trains going, not many, on the 9 platforms, right? And then if you see the departures, they're about every 15 minutes or so, trains are going. When under ordinary circumstances, it'd be every 5 minutes. So the majority of them were cancelled. Some strike days, about 80% of the trains travelling in the United Kingdom have been cancelled. Now the other trains are not necessarily been full because people thought, well, it's just not a convenient time. It's much earlier, much later than usual, or they just don't really have faith it's going to go ahead at all, so they just don't go. So you can see how virtually empty it is. And I was here the other day, and some of the shops and restaurants were actually closed in the railway station, even though the station was open, because there just wasn't enough footfall. As there weren't enough passengers passing through the station, it was not worth their while to open the shop, restaurant or ale house. They concluded they would actually lose more money by having it open than closing it. So you can see that the strike is fairly effective. Look at the departures board, not full. There's just not that many departures, or indeed arrivals up there. So you get the idea of the impact the strikes are going to have. And there's really no end in sight. Having said that, some people think that the trades unions are going to run out of money. So they're a little bit optimistic. You pay into a trades union will invest that, and the trades union will run out of money. They pay to go on strike, but that's rapidly running out. And so many of these railway workers, they've lost 10% of their salary last year from going on strike. And in 2023, how much more of their salary can they afford to lose? So inflation's about 10%. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak gave a speech the other day saying that he promises that inflation is going to come down to about 5% by the end of 2023. Now, why is he saying that? Because I think he happens to know from the economic pundits it's going to do that anyway. But there are wildcard factors. This war in the Ukraine could flare up. It could become much worse, or anything could happen, or a real recrudescence of coronavirus could aggravate it. Or the situation could be even better than he thinks, but I suppose he had to say something because the National Health Service is close to collapse. So They want wage increases because since 2010 we've had austerity, and wages have just not kept pace with inflation, and then inflation really accelerated. So the nurses are going on strike, the doctors are going on strike, some of the civil servants, the postal workers, bus drivers. So it's pretty horrific. Obviously bad for investment, bad for the retail trade. So many people travelling, going to shops, going to restaurants, going to bars. Often people know they're going to drink alcohol. Well, I can't drive home, so I better go by public transport. But the train isn't going, forget it, in which case I'm just not going to go. And so the restaurant or the bar loses money. So that's what it's like here in these, because of these transport strikes in the United Kingdom, operated by the RMT and some of the other trades unions. So you'd think that you'd have lots and lots of passengers, but look, there's hardly anybody waiting for the fast train to London. So people are just completely losing faith in the public transport system. Now, we come out to the taxi rank. Usually there'd be a big queue for taxis, but as you'll see, you could get one right away. I've had to wait quite some time here to get a taxi, but nobody's waiting for the taxi. So the taxi drivers are also losing money because they're not picking up so many fares. So a bit of a dreadful situation, but yeah, as I say, some people think that the trade unions will settle. They'll be forced to negotiate and settle for not very much money, because otherwise, you know, they're just going to run out of money. They can't sustain the strike. The other thing is the government doesn't want to give in to them. If they give too much money to the trades unions, it will just incentivize others to go on strike. If you can afford to pay them more, why can't you pay us? The nurses are demanding 19%. 19%. Where do they think this money is going to come from? It's just completely unaffordable, and the National Health Service is close to breaking point. So public services like that are close to collapse. I mean, nobody's talking about paying teachers more. Now, the police are not permitted to go on strike by law, neither are the national security agencies. The armed forces are not allowed to go on strike. Now, some of the border security staff, they went on strike when you come to the airport, checking your passport, your visa to allow you into the country. And they trained some of the military to do it, who performed it quite well. But actually, the military stopped only about 5% of the people, which would usually be stopped, said, no, you can't come in. So perhaps a bit lax, didn't really know what they were doing, and let some people who ought not to have been admitted. Now, you can't blame them, because it's not what they're supposed to do. They were just given some crash course, and inevitably a few mistakes were made, more than usually made by people who are actually specialised in this activity. So today is the Feast of Epiphany. That marks the end of Christmas, 12th night, 12 nights after Christmas, and the Christmas decorations are supposed to come down. People return to ordinary life, and a fairly grim 2023 to look forward to. Rishi Sunak has said that the problems are just not magically going to disappear. They can't do. Energy prices are still high, and they may actually be rising as China and China reopens after coronavirus, so using more oil and gas and so on. Alright, thank you so much for watching my channel. Goodbye from Liverpool.